Kaddish. Thank you. Sorry, I went blank. I did Kaddish. So I'm starting the process. I've lit the candle. And now what I'm going to do now is just to make a dedication to my late dad. My late dad and I, we didn't always see everything eye to eye, but, I think we tried our best. And I think that, in the end, we kind of worked things out at some level. And I think he had some great points, I think his wonderful points are from the way he treated my late mom. He was unbelievable to her, loyal and faithful and all that type of stuff, which was really remarkable. And then he was a pharmacist, so he did the best that he possibly could. So this dedication is for him and to elevate his neshama in Shemayim.
What's his English and Hebrew name, or whatever you have?
So it's Shabtai. Let me give you his Hebrew name according to what his dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just give me. The system's very slow here. It's Sidney Stollar. That's his English name.
Okay.
And I can just see if I can pick up his Hebrew name if I can access this here. It's Shabtai ben Yehuda Leib.
Say that slowly.
Leib HaKohein.
Yeah.
Now start from the beginning, Gavin, and say it properly.
Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Gavin, we can hear you.
Perfect. No, you guys are breaking up. I'm not having great signal. All right, it's fine.
I'm saying, what's his full Hebrew name? Just say it again, because we missed it.
I'll just say it again in one go. So it's Shabtai ben Yehuda Leib HaKohein.
Yes, we did the 264th daf, not daf. We've done the 264th shir to your dad.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure you'll appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No. We on already 367. I'm saying we did the 264th shir to your dad.
Gee.
Oh, okay. I don't know how you remember that. Okay, unbelievable. Thank you.
Okay.
And now we're doing one tonight, which is what? The
67th.
68 actually. It's the 368.
So we've done about 100 in the year. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Well done, guys.
All right. Listen, I didn't rely on memory. I went to YouTube where I got his full Hebrew and English name just to check it was correct. And it is Shabtai ben Yehuda Leib HaKohein. I've got that. And I've got Sidney Stollar. I've got that. All right.
Well done for doing that. I had a feeling you cheated.
No, I did cheat. I didn't.
No, we thought you remembered, Damon.
No, I didn't remember. My memory isn't that good. I just looked on YouTube. That's it. All right, Kevin, please teach us.
Okay, continuing on the theme of friendship. Okay, according to the Rashbats, a good friend will help one in fulfilling mitzvahs by guiding and encouraging him to do the right thing and cajoling him to avoid transgressions. Furthermore, the give and take between friends learning Torah together helps both crystallize and clarify issues. Moreover, a true friend will consult and provide constructive criticism and take risks to save his friend, even if he may incur financial or emotional costs. Such a friend, says the Mirkevetz HaMishnah, is difficult to find. Okay, let's just start the paragraph of the next subsection. Real friends, two that are one. Rambam, in his commentary to the Mishnah cited above, adds an interesting dimension to the term friend. When you befriend someone, do not do so according to your own character, but do so according to your friend's character. When both friends adhere to the instruction, each should strive to complement the will of his friend, as together intend undoubtedly to attain the same goal. How apt is Aristotle's adage, a friend, another who is you. Okay.
A friend and another who is you. What is
Okay, let's repeat that again. So Aristotle is saying a friend, a dash, another who is you. So it's like a mirror image, or
okay.
I think.
Okay. Listen, Gavin, you definitely are helping your dad with his learning, etc. And I think it's a very good thing. And the davening and the Yahrzeit. All right, so let's get started on the shir. And I'm just going to clarify a couple of points. I don't need a chart. I'm going to explain it in a slightly different way. Of just the summary part when we're dealing with the bottom line is that all we said is, as far as the temple offering is concerned, how do we know it has to do with the Misa offering? Because as Kevin quite rightly saw in the verse, it doesn't mention the word say. So how do we know that it's excluding a hybrid or including a hybrid in that case? And what we're saying is we know it through a Gezerah Shabbat, because with the Misa offering as well as the temple offering, there's this term that we learn, tachas, which means, as Kevin knew, it meant whatever passes under the staff, the 10th one shall be holy, and it appears in the passage of offerings. It shall remain tachas under its mother for 7 days. So, guys, that establishes a Gezerah Shabbat and teaches us that all the laws which apply to offerings apply to the animal tithe as well. So we already know through this Gezerah Shabbat that a hybrid, which is invalid for a temple offering, is invalid for a Meiser offering as well. So we don't need Rabba's binyan to teach us this. Now we're saying, well, what about a Bechorah, the firstborn? Whether it's a male offspring of a cow, sheep, or goat, it's given to a Kohen as a sacrifice, and the word seh appears with respect to the Bechorah offering in the verse in Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 27, verse 26. And it mentions the word firstborn quite a few times, because it discusses, there's a Gezerah Shabbat with the word Havara. Okay, now Havara, it comes from the word Havarta, which means you shall pass. So in other words, just like we learn with the Meiser, every 10th one that shall pass under your staff, you shall mark it with red dye, etc. So too with here, with Shemot, chapter 13, verse 12, every first issue of the womb to Hashem, with respect to the animal tithe, in the verse in Vayikra, chapter 27, verse 32, whatever Yavor passes under the staff, the 10th one shall be holy. So it mentions the same Gezerah Shabbat with the word Havarta. Okay, so obviously, if a Meiser is excluding a hybrid, so is the Bechor excluding a hybrid. And how do you know this? Because there's a verse that says, look, you can even derive it from logic, guys. You don't even need the Gezerah Shabbat, because basically, if a mutant born from 2 sheep is not subject to Bechorah, because a mutant is actually a thoroughbred, it just doesn't look like it. Okay, so if that's not allowed, obviously a thoroughbred isn't allowed, and that's in Numbers chapter 18, verse 17. Okay, so you learn, but the firstborn of an ox, which teaches that an animal is not subject to Bechorah unless it's an actual ox, and its firstborn is an ox, meaning the firstborn has the appearance of an ox to the exclusion of a mutant. So obviously, if that's a thoroughbred and doesn't look like a thoroughbred and it's excluded, a hybrid is certainly excluded. And how do you know? The verse reads, the firstborn of an ox, or the firstborn of a lamb, or the firstborn of a goat. So it only needn't say the firstborn of an ox, a lamb, or a goat. There's 3 word firstborns. One is coming to exclude a hybrid, and the other one is excluding a mutant. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. So the question comes, what do we actually need Rabba's binyan for? Because we need it with respect to the redemption of a firstborn donkey. Okay, Because in Shmot, Exodus chapter 13, verse 13, it says, every first issued donkey you shall redeem with a seh. So that is, the owner must redeem the firstborn donkey by giving a seh, a lamb or a goat to a Kohen. So Rava's Binyan Av teaches that although the term seh is used in this verse to include both lambs and goats, it doesn't include a hybrid born from a lamb and a goat. That's what you've got to know. Because how do we know this? It was stated in a Mishnah, and that Mishnah is in Bechoros in 12a, that one may not redeem a firstborn donkey, neither with a calf, nor with an undomesticated animal, nor with a slaughtered lamb or kid. Because the minute it's slaughtered at supper, guys, remember, it's not determined as its name while it was alive. Nor with a treifa. Treifa is basically a fatal defect, and then it's not eligible for shechting because it would die on its own. Nor with a hybrid. So there clearly in the Mishnah it says not nor with a hybrid, but it's coming from this particular pasuk of the Binyan Av. Nor with a koi. And we said yesterday a koi wasn't a fish. It's a hybrid from a domesticated animal and a non-domesticated animal, like a goat and a deer. So that's also excluded. Okay? So in terms of the hybrid, we wouldn't have known that without this. So the Gemara's got a question. Now, according to Rav Elazar, who permits redeeming the firstborn donkey with a hybrid, as we learnt in the very same Mishnah, Rav Elazar permits redeeming the firstborn donkey with a hybrid, for it is a seh. So basically, he's saying since both its father and mother called seh, it doesn't matter if one's a lamb and one's a goat. As long as both of them fall within that category, it can't be a hybrid from other animals. But if one's a goat and one's a lamb, it's considered. Okay? So obviously the Tana Kamma doesn't rule like that. So we'll see why. But in the meantime, the question arises that if Rav Elazar doesn't learn Rava's Binyan Av to teach us with regards to a hybrid, because he says you can offer a hybrid in the place of a firstborn donkey. What does he use Rava's Binyan Av for? And he uses it with respect to a non-kosher animal that was born from a kosher animal impregnated by a non-kosher animal. I'll repeat that again. He said it's coming to teach you that you cannot include a hybrid from a non-kosher animal that was born from a kosher animal impregnated by a non-kosher animal. But he said a hybrid of two kosher animals, in this specific case a lamb and a goat, is fine, because in that particular case, each parent is known as a seh. Does that make sense, guys? Very straightforward. Very straightforward.
Okay, but you see, Damon, there could be confusion with a seh and a hybrid. Is this a seh a lamb? A seh can be a lamb or a goat.
Exactly. So that's
is it like a flock that consists of sheep and goats?
No. A flock. When you learned the word flock, that had to do with Havara. It had to do with a different Binyan Av. That's what you read in your book. But that was in the previous note. Are you with me? Because the term tzon is a flock. Not
it's basically sheep, which is sheep, flock of sheep.
No. Tzon is means a pluralized version. It could be a flock of geese.
Oh, okay. Of any sense, could be.
So that's
but only one species. Only one
species. Yeah. So you mustn't confuse that, because that's a different issue. That was, I don't want to get into tachas, but that's when it uses the term flock instead of a seh. That's when your question came up with the animal type. I looked into it.
And seh just means offspring, Kevin.
Well, spring means offspring, but specifically with regards to lamb and goats. Specifically, when we see the pasuk. So what Rav Elazar is saying, Kevin, very straightforwardly, all he's saying is a seh is an offspring of either a lamb or goat. So therefore, if its parents are one of each, it's a hybrid, it's okay. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua and the Tana Kamma says it's not okay. It's not okay. It has to be, because he learns, okay, Rav Yeshua learns that the pasuk is slightly different, because if you look at the pasuk, okay, it says that basically it's born from 2 lambs or from 2 goats, okay, but not. In other words, it says in Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 4, these are the animals that you may eat: an ox, a seah of lambs, and a seah of goats. So that means to exclude a hybrid according to Rav Yeshua. He's saying if it comes from 2 lambs and it's a thoroughbred lamb, you can have it. If it comes from a seah of goats, meaning its father and mother are goats, you can have it, but not a crossbreed of the 2. Whereas Rav Elazar turns around and says if it's a seah, it could be where one of the parents is a lamb and one of the parents is a goat. It's included in redeeming the firstborn. So let's not overcomplicate it, guys. It's not that complicated. So the Gemara is turning around and saying, well, what does Rav Elazar do with Rabba's binyan av? And he said it's coming to teach a different thing. Rav Elazar is saying it's coming to say with respect to non-kosher animal that was born from a kosher animal impregnated by a non-kosher animal. You can't use that hybrid because one of the animals is kosher and one of them is not. Well, there's a problem there. And that problem is very straightforward, is that we learned in Bechoros something else, is that in Bechoros in the 7th daf, we don't need an exposition to prohibit the offspring of a kosher and non-kosher animal, because they can't conceive from one another. So we don't understand what Rav Elazar is talking about here. Kevin, you're falling asleep. Your eyes are closed. Yeah. Now, I swear. So what I'm saying is, we're asking Rav Elazar, what do you mean you can't use a hybrid from a kosher animal and a non-kosher animal? What are you talking about? They can't breed children. So what are you coming to tell us here? So what we learned is that there was an argument, okay, in a different Gemara in Bechoros in the 6th daf, that there's an argument between Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Shimon, Rav Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon says that a kosher animal that actually was born with an unclove tooth that doesn't look kosher cannot be consumed, okay, and it also can't be used as an offering. Again, Rabbi Shimon is saying that you cannot use an animal that looks unkosher if it was born with a defect of an uncloven hoof, even though both its parents are kosher. If it has the appearance of a non-kosher animal, you cannot eat it, nor can you consecrate it.
Because it could be assumed to be a non-kosher animal, even though it isn't. Its appearance.
Correct. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua disagrees and said if it comes from kosher parents, you can consume it. Okay, so that's very, very clear. And how did they work this out? It's because there's a verse in Leviticus, Vayikra chapter 11 verse 4, and one in Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 7. So one comes to prohibit an actual camel, a genetical camel from 2 camels, and one comes to prohibit a camel born from 2 kosher animals. So it's a genetically kosher animal born from 2 kosher animals, but it doesn't look like a kosher animal. So Rabbi Yeshua refers to a non-kosher animal born from a kosher animal, impregnated by a non-kosher animal. He wasn't referring to it being impregnated, guys, by a non-kosher species, but a kosher species that was born with uncloven hooves, which is prohibited according to Rabbi Shimon. But Rabbi Yeshua said it's fine if it's kosher. So we're obviously not talking about a kosher species with an unkosher species. Saying it's totally kosher just doesn't look it. So Rabbi Shimon says you can't eat it, you can't use it, and Rabbi Yeshua says you can. But where Rabbi Yeshua doesn't agree is this verse about redeeming a firstborn donkey. He said it cannot be a hybrid, even of a kosher animal. It has to be either from a thoroughbred from 2 lambs or a different thoroughbred from 2 goats, but not a mixture of the 2. Okay, so there he's disagreeing with Rav Elazar, but the only part that him and Rav Elazar do agree is that they're obviously not talking about, in general, a kosher and unkosher species. Does that make sense? I mean, that's not even on the cards. They don't genetically breed. So I think, guys, this is very clear. I've made it pretty clear. Any questions?
No, I'm fine.
Kev, I appreciate you standing up. I know you're exhausted, but
No, I thought I wasn't exhausted. I lied down and I didn't seriously. I thought I was okay. That's why I'm doing it. Sorry about that. Apologies. I thought I was. I thought I wasn't so. I didn't realize how tired I was or am.
No problem. So, all right, guys. So this makes sense. There's nothing of confusion. I didn't need a chart. It's very, very straight forward. So now I'm just going to discuss this Ola offering thing, and then.
Are you on page 78? Sorry to interrupt you. 78 now.
Yeah, 78b1. All right, guys. So let me just deal with this new quick topic. So the Gemara discusses the liability of a thief who stole a consecrated animal for which the owner has responsibility. We said that when an owner says he has responsibility, it means he makes a declaration that if anything happens to that animal, he will replace it. Okay? Both in his care and in Hikdesh's care. Okay? So Rava inquired, it's thereby incumbent when the guy declares, and he said, it's hereby incumbent upon me to bring an olah, if he declared. And then he designated a specific ox and an offering. In other words, in which case he's obviously responsible to replace it with another offering in the event that it dies, it gets lost or stolen, any of the 3. And another person came and stole the designated ox. Can the thief exempt himself with a lamb according to the rabbis? In other words, exempt himself not in Shemayim only, but from his liability to the owner, with a lamb according to the rabbis, or with a bird olah according to Rav Elazar ben Azariah. So basically, we learn in a Mishnah in Menachos, in 107a, it is hereby incumbent upon me to bring an olah. When he makes that statement, but he didn't specify what kind of animal he would bring. In other words, he can bring a lamb as an olah, as a replacement. Rav Elazar says he may bring a turtle dove or a young dove as his olah. So I just want to explain to you what the whole context. Why does one say a lamb and one say a turtle dove? Because the Tana Kamma and Rav Elazar ben Azariah didn't actually argue. It's not like the one is saying bring a lamb and the other one is saying you bring a turtle dove. Basically, each ruled according to the custom of his land. So they both meant to say that since the original owner didn't specify what animal he's going to be replacing it with, but just said he'd replace it with an olah offering, the thief in that case can replace it with any olah offering. But we're using this example of the most inexpensive olah. So where the Tana Kamma lived, young lambs were cheaper than turtle doves and young doves. So when he stated that he could fulfill his vow even with a lamb, he said, look, let's take the cheapest olah offering in my town, and you could say that you could even replace an expensive olah offering with a cheaper olah offering for the thief. But where Rav Elazar ben Azariah lived, turtle doves and young doves were cheaper than young lambs. So they were actually in agreement. They just said in each respective town they were using their particular example. But, guys, obviously it goes without saying that if the thief stole an animal at which it was, by the original owner, specified that it was incumbent upon him to bring an olah, but he specified what olah. In other words, he's saying, just like in this case, it's an ox, I will replace it with an ox. then the thief doesn't have a choice. But if the replacement was non-specific by the original owner, you can replace it with the cheapest Olah offering, because then he's fulfilled his obligation since to the original owner, where the original owner can use it as hekdesh. So the Gemara reports, hang on, do we have load shedding? No, it's good. Sorry, I heard something.
Damon.
Yeah?
So just I need to check that. But turtle doves, I think, are used for shlamim. They're used for different offerings. So can they still be? Because certain things like the oil and the flour is, I think that's a shlamim. They're all used for different types of offerings.
Correct. That's exactly why it's used in Olah offering as an example, at which you can have a variety of animals, including both a turtle dove, a lamb, an ox, according to your financial ability. So that's exactly why it's used Olah. Because you're right. For shlamamim offerings and Asham offerings, all these offerings have got different specifications. Kevin's 100% correct. That's why it's specifically used and Olah in this case. So we want to know, look, what do we say? Do we say that the owner accepted upon himself only to bring an offering with the name Olah? Or perhaps do we say that the owner may say to the thief, I wish to do a mitzvah in the not in the cheapest manner, but in the choicest manner. In other words, is the thief liable to replace a stolen ox with a different Olah offering? Or can he replace it with any Olah offering, with a lamb or a turtle dove, whatever's cheap? And that basically makes restitution as long as the Olah offering is fulfilled. Or is it the case, guys, that he has to replace it with the choicest animal like the original owner brought forward? That's posed as the question. Now, we already know that according to the Bava Kamma, as well as Rav Elazar ben Azariah, both of them said you can replace it with the cheaper equivalent. There's no problem. As long as the original owner never specified he'd replace it with an ox or was specific in his declaration. Now, after raising the inquiry, Rava then resolved it, because he said the thief can exempt himself with a lamb according to the rabbis, or with the bird offering according to Rav Elazar ben Azariah. So in other words, he basically concurs. He said, for the thief is required to make restitution only to the owner, and since he covers the owner's loss with the lamb, as this enables the owner to cheaply fulfill his vow obligation, he has no further liability as long as Hekdesh gets an Olah offering. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. Now, there's an alternative version of Rava's original statement. Rav Acha, the son of Rav Ika, teaches Rava's original statement not as an inquiry, but as an explicit ruling as follows. Okay, and basically, he said, look, Rava said, not as a question, but as a statement. If one declared it is hereby incumbent upon me to bring an Olah, and he then designated a specific ox as an offering, and another person came and stole it, the thief can exempt himself from further liability with a lamb according to the rabbis, or with a bird offering according to Rav Azariah, but providing, and this is good, providing that the original owner didn't say he designates to replace the ox with an ox. Okay, now we're going to share the Mishnah, at which Gavin's going to read in honor of his late father, because the Hebrew letters Neshama, which means the soul, and Mishnah have got the same Hebrew letters. So it's customary to learn Mishnahs when a person passes. So this is our Mishnah which we're going to be hitting now. Gavin, read.
Mishnah. The Mishnah lists further cases in which a thief is exempt from the fourfold or fivefold payment. If the thief sold the stolen animal with the exception of 1/100th of it, or he originally had a partnership in it, and after stealing it from his partner, he slaughtered or sold it, or one slaughters it and it becomes a nevela through his hand, or one slits it open lengthwise or tears out its parts instead of slaughtering it properly. He pays the twofold payment of an ordinary thief, but does not pay the fourfold and fivefold payment of one who sells or slaughters the stolen animal.
Excellent. So what we're saying is, guys, is that basically he didn't sell the entire animal. He retained a small portion of it for himself, and therefore is not eligible to a full fivefold payment. Because if you remember in Shmot, Exodus chapter 21, verse 37, the verse says, and he slaughters it or sells it. And guys, we've learned whenever the word it is used, it implies that he must slaughter or sell the entirety of it. The entirety of it. In lawlessness, in order to be liable to the penalty. So if he's got a partner, just like we said that a son inherits from his father, and the brothers have a partnership in him, in the animal, and he sells or slaughters it, he only has to recover the brother's actual damage, but not the 4 or 5-fold payment, because he had a legal share in it. Same thing if he has a business partner. If he obviously kept some of it, he doesn't have the 4 or 5-fold payment because he has to slaughter or sell it in its entirety in order to be liable. Now, this thing about nevela, a nevela, Kevin, you remember, is what? A Hebrew guy.
Animal that's not fit for slaughter. It's been has a defect or has an injury that's you cannot. It's oh no, sorry, it hasn't been shechted correctly with a blunt knife or a that's a
treifa.
So that was treifa. Sorry, jeez.
So Kevin is right in that a treifa, there's no eligibility we've learned for treifa, which is an animal that is terminally ill and will die from its illness in a matter of time if it isn't slaughtered. That we know that the thief doesn't pay the 4 or 5-fold payment for slaughtering treifa. But a nevela is if it's shechted incorrectly, it now renders the animal not permissible to eat. So that's why we say if his hand damages it in a way that renders it treif, or he splits it lengthwise or tears out its parts instead of slaughtering it properly. So illegitimate slaughter, basically. Then you can't pay the 4 or 5-fold payment, because just like a treifa, you can't consume it. In all these cases, guys, the thief pays the 2-fold payment, but he does not pay the 4 or 5-fold payment of one who sells or slaughters the stolen animal. All right, guys, we're going to stop at this point. We're not going to continue any further. There's no reason to. We'll address it tomorrow. It was a short share, but I'm happy.
Okay, Damon.
Yeah.
Just go over say one more time. Just give an example. So a say is it can be a goat or a lamb from the same, not from the same flock, or can it be?
Yes, sir. I'll tell you now. Okay.
Okay.
So what we say?
See, I looked for sorry to hop on it, and I looked in the commentaries, and I even looked online. I could not find any definition, and I'm sure the other guys are interested. Gavin and Arthur, or maybe you know what it is.
Can't hold holding my breath.
He's holding his breath in anticipation. He's so excited.
He's quite sheepish about it, Damon. He's not sheepish about
Well, I was a bit of a goat. I should have discussed it with you. So basically, okay. Kevin, is that a seh is a hybrid
yes.
from a sheep and a goat, or it could be a thoroughbred from 2 lambs or 2 goats, or
then it's a mutant. It could be a mutant then, which a thoroughbred.
Generally, a different definition if it doesn't look like the thoroughbred it is. It's still a thoroughbred. It just doesn't look like it.
Then it's a mutant.
Okay? A hybrid means it generally comes from, when it uses the term seh, it generally comes hybrid. From a combination of a lamb and a goat, or a sheep and a goat. Okay?
Because they never use the word, they only use the word seh. They don't use the word, even in the English, they don't use the word hybrid. They use the word seh. A lot of
correct. So seh means an offspring.
So seh is hybrid.
No, seh isn't hybrid. Seh is an offspring. So you either got a thoroughbred seh, which is an offspring from 2 lambs, a thoroughbred seh, which is an offspring of 2 goats, okay? Or you've got a hybrid seh, which is an offspring of a lamb and a goat, which is kosher. You just can't use it as a sacrificial offering.
But not all offspring from two hybrid lambs can be a seh either. Or are they always a seh?
No, it is, because a seh means, as Rabbi Lazar says, that one of the parents is a goat or a lamb.
Okay, but a male goat and a female goat
would bring a thoroughbred seh, as opposed to a hybrid seh.
So seh can be a hybrid or of the same,
or thoroughbred